Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. His ship had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 months now. It was quiet work, but someone had to do it. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, but he kept sipping it anyway. "Sir, I'm getting something strange on the communication system," said Lisa Hayes from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and quick fingers that danced across her controls. "It's not coming from any human ship." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of signal? It's weak, but it's definitely artificial. And sir, it sounds like they're in trouble." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens had always been a possibility, but most people thought it would happen closer to Earth, not out here on the rim. "Can you clean it up?" Lisa worked for several minutes, adjusting frequencies and filtering out static. Slowly, a voice emerged from the noise. It was speaking in a language none of them had ever heard, but the tone was unmistakable. Fear, desperation, pain. "Get Dr. Cole up here," Jake ordered. "Wake up Captain Rodriguez." Nathan Cole arrived first. He was the ship's science officer, a tall man with gray hair who had studied alien life for most of his career, even though he had never seen any. He listened to the signal for a few minutes, his face growing more serious. "The language is completely unknown, but I'm detecting mathematical sequences in the transmission. They're trying to establish communication protocols. This is definitely intelligent life, and they're definitely asking for help." Captain Emma Rodriguez stepped onto the bridge, still buttoning her uniform jacket. She was Jake's superior officer, a woman in her 40s with black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "What's the situation?" Jake explained quickly. Rodriguez listened to the alien signal herself, her expression growing darker with each repetition of the desperate voice. "Can we respond?" she asked. "I think so," Lisa said. "They're using basic mathematical concepts. I can try to establish a translation matrix." "Do it." For the next 2 hours, Lisa and Dr. Cole worked together to build a basic communication system. The aliens seemed eager to help, sending simple concepts and waiting for responses. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. The aliens called themselves the Villani. They lived on a planet called Kepler 44b, about 30 light years from Earth. They were peaceful people who had only recently learned to travel between stars, and they were dying. "Another species attacked us," the alien voice said through the computer's translation system. The voice belonged to someone called Elder Zethkol. They call themselves the Hraekter. "They came to our world 3 cycles ago and demanded we serve them. When we refused, they began killing us." Jake exchanged glances with Captain Rodriguez. "How many of your people are left?" "We do not know. Our cities burn. Our children hide in caves. The Hraekter ships destroy everything we built. They take our people away to work as slaves. We sent this message to any who might hear, hoping someone would help us." Dr. Cole leaned forward. "What do these Hraekter look like? What do they want?" "They are tall, with thick skin and sharp teeth. They speak only of conquest and strength. They say weak species like us exist only to serve strong ones like them. They do not understand why we will not submit." Rodriguez made a decision. "Set course for their system. Maximum speed." "Ma'am, we don't have orders to investigate alien contacts," Jake said carefully. "People are dying, Commander. We'll deal with the paperwork later." The journey to Kepler 44b took 6 days. During that time, Dr. Cole learned more about the Villani. They were herbivores who had evolved on a world with light gravity and gentle weather. They had no concept of war because they had never needed one. Their entire civilization was built around art, science, and philosophy. "They're like children," Dr. Cole told the senior staff during one of their meetings. "Innocent children who have never seen violence. Their world has no dangerous animals, no natural disasters, no scarcity of resources. It simply never developed." "The ability to fight, and these Hraekter?" asked Ryan Walker, the ship's engineer. "The opposite. Everything we've learned suggests they're a military species. Conquest is their way of life. They've been expanding across the galaxy for over 200 years, conquering peaceful worlds and enslaving the populations. When the Defiance finally arrived at the Kepler system, the crew stared in horror at what they found. The planet that should have been beautiful was scarred with impact craters. Orbital bombardment had reduced cities to rubble. The few Volani ships still in space were clearly not warships, but exploration vessels, trying desperately to evacuate survivors. "Dear God," whispered Lisa Hayes. Jake opened a channel to the planet. "Elder Zeth call. This is Commander Morrison of the Earth ship Defiance. We're here to help." The response came quickly, and even through the translation system, the relief was obvious. "You came. We thought no one would answer our call. We're here now. What's your current situation?" "The Herakter have 15 ships in orbit around our world. They land soldiers every day to capture more of our people. We have perhaps 50,000 survivors scattered across the planet. We cannot fight them. We do not know how." Jake looked at his tactical display. 15 ships was more than the Defiance could handle alone, especially since they didn't know what kind of weapons the Herakter had. "Can you tell us about Herakter military capabilities?" "They have weapons that burn through our buildings like paper. Their soldiers wear thick armor and carry guns that kill from great distances. Their ships can destroy our cities from space. We tried to negotiate, but they laughed at us. They said we are prey, and prey does not bargain with predators."
"Captain,"
Rodriguez spoke up, "Elder Zethkal, we need to report this to our government. We're just one ship, but Earth has many ships. Can you hold out for a few more weeks? We will try. Some of our people have hidden in the deep caves. The Raptor do not like to go underground, but they grow impatient. Yesterday they announced that if we do not surrender completely within 10 cycles, they will simply kill everyone and take our world for themselves." Jake felt anger building in his chest. The Volani were clearly harmless, intelligent beings who had never hurt anyone. The idea of wiping them out simply for resources was monstrous. "We'll be back," Rodriguez promised. "Tell your people to stay hidden. Help is coming." After closing the channel, Rodriguez turned to Jake. "Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we have first contact with a peaceful alien species under attack by a hostile empire. Request immediate military assistance." "What if they order us to withdraw and avoid contact?" Jake asked. Rodriguez looked back at the devastated planet on the screen. "Then we'll have to make some hard choices. Those people trusted us enough to call for help. I won't abandon them to genocide." Jake nodded and began composing the message that would change everything. He had no idea that his words would trigger the largest military mobilization in human history, or that the galaxy would never be the same again, in the depths of space. Richter War Commander Grathel watched the human ship with interest. Another weak species probably come to try diplomacy like so many others. It would crush them easily, just like all the rest. He had no idea what kind of enemy he was about to face. Admiral Susan Carter stepped onto the bridge of the battleship Thunderbolt 3 weeks after. Jake Morrison sent his message to Earth. She was 50 years old with gray hair, and scars on her hands from the Mars colonial wars. Behind her walked Colonel Marcus Lee, a man who had seen more battles than most soldiers ever would. "Status report, Commander Morrison," Admiral Carter said as she looked at the tactical display showing the Kepler system. Jake straightened up. "The situation has gotten worse, Admiral. The Herakter have brought in more ships. We count 23 vessels now, including what looks like a command ship. They've also established ground bases on 3 of the planet's moons. And the Volani still hiding, but their numbers are dropping. The Herakter are hunting them systematically. They're using some kind of scanner that can detect life signs through rock and soil." Dr. Patricia Bell, Earth's top expert on alien psychology, stepped forward. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her life studying how different minds worked. "Admiral, I need to study both species before we make any decisions. We're dealing with first contact with 2 alien races at once." Admiral Carter nodded. "You have full access to our communication logs with the Volani. As for the Raptor, we'll see what we can learn." Tony Garcia, the fleet's intelligence officer, had been listening to alien communications for days. He was young but smart, the kind of man who could spot patterns others missed. "Admiral, I've broken some of their communication codes. The Herakta are definitely part of something bigger. They keep referring to other conquered worlds in reporting, back to someone they call the War Supreme."
how big are we talking?
At least 12 star systems, maybe more.
This isn't just a random attack. It's part of a pattern they've used dozens of times before. Admiral Carter felt a chill run down her spine. If this was true, then the Raptor Empire would eventually find Earth. Better to stop them here than wait for them to show up in human space. Captain Kevin Barnes commanded the heavy cruiser Retribution, one of the most powerful ships in the fleet. He was studying the tactical situation when Admiral Carter called him to a meeting with the senior officers. "What's your assessment, Captain Barnes?" the Admiral asked. "The Herctor have good ships, but they're designed for intimidation more than fighting. Big, scary-looking things meant to make enemies surrender without a battle. Their tactics seem to rely on overwhelming weaker opponents." Colonel Lee pulled up images from the planet's surface. "My scouts have been watching their ground operations. They're brutal but not particularly smart about it. They seem to think fear is more important than efficiency." Dr. Bell had been studying recordings of Fractor communications. "I think I understand their mindset now. They literally see the universe as divided into predators and prey. There's no middle ground in their thinking. You either dominate or you get dominated. And the Villani? Complete opposite. They evolved on a world so peaceful, they never developed aggression. They can barely understand the concept of violence, let alone practice it. When the Raptor first arrived, the Villani actually tried to welcome them as visitors." Admiral Carter made a decision that would change galactic history. Right. Open a channel to the Raptor command ship. Time to see what we're dealing with. The alien face that appeared on the screen was exactly what the Villani had described. Tall, with thick gray skin, and sharp teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. War Commander Grathel looked at the humans with obvious contempt. "Another weak species comes to beg for the prey things," Grathel said through the translation system. His voice was deep and harsh. "You will leave now, or be destroyed with them." Admiral Carter kept her voice calm. "I'm Admiral Carter of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're here to discuss the situation with the Villani." Grathel made a sound that might have been laughter. "There is nothing to discuss. The prey things refused to submit. Now they die. This is the way of things. Perhaps we can work out some kind of arrangement. The Villani could pay tribute to your empire in exchange for their freedom." "You think like prey," Grathel snarled. "The strong take what they want. The weak exist only to serve. Your species will learn this lesson when we find your nest world." The communication ended abruptly. Admiral Carter stared at the blank screen. For a long moment, "Well, that went about as expected," Colonel Lee said dryly. Dr. Bell shook her head. "He meant every word. To them, showing mercy is a sign of weakness. They've probably been conquering peaceful species for so long they can't imagine facing real resistance." Over the next few days, the human fleet gathered intelligence on both species. Tony Garcia's team intercepted more Hrector communications, learning about their empire's structure and methods. The pattern was always the same: arrive at a peaceful world, demand submission, and begin systematic extermination when refused. Dr. Bell interviewed Villani survivors who had been rescued from the planet's surface. The stories they told were heartbreaking. Families torn apart, children taken as slaves, entire cities destroyed for no reason other than to spread fear. "They keep asking us why," Elder Telesh told Dr. Bell during one interview. "Why do the Heroctor do this? Why do they hate us? We offered them everything we had. Our art, our science, our friendship. They laughed and started killing us." Dr. Bell tried to explain, but how do you tell a peaceful species that some beings kill simply because they can? Meanwhile, Captain Barnes and his tactical team studied Heroctor ship designs and battle recordings. "They're used to fighting civilians," Barnes reported to Admiral Carter. "Their ships have powerful weapons but weak defenses. They've never had to worry about return fire." Colonel Lee's ground reconnaissance painted a similar picture. "Their soldiers are well equipped but poorly trained for actual combat. They're used to hurting terrified civilians, not fighting trained opponents. The more the humans learned, the angrier they became. This wasn't war in any recognizable sense. It was systematic extermination of innocent people for no purpose other than cruelty and profit." Admiral Carter called a meeting of all senior officers. "I'm sending a full report back to Earth Command. My recommendation is immediate military intervention to stop this genocide. What if Earth Command orders us to withdraw? Asked Jake Morrison. Then we have a problem, Carter replied, because I'm not leaving these people to die while we debate politics. Tony Garcia raised his hand. Admiral, I've been tracking Raker fleet movements. They're bringing in more ships. If we're going to act, we need to do it soon. In another week, they'll have enough firepower to destroy the planet outright. Dr. Bell added her own concerns. I've been studying their expansion patterns. The Raptor are systematic. After they finish here, they'll move to the next closest inhabited system. Eventually, that trail leads straight to Earth. Admiral Carter made her decision. Send the report to Earth Command with a request for full fleet deployment. Tell them this isn't just about saving the Villani anymore. This is about stopping an empire that will threaten Earth eventually. As the message raced back toward Earth at faster than light speeds, Admiral Carter watched the Raker fleet on her tactical display. They had no idea what was coming. They thought they were dealing with another weak species like the Villani. They were about to learn that humans were very different from their previous victims. Earth had not become the dominant species on a violent world by being peaceful. When pushed, humans pushed back harder. War Commander Grothel was about to discover that there was a third category beyond predator and prey. There were species that fought back with everything they had, and Earth was full of them. Admiral Jonathan Hayes stared out at the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 200 ships floated in formation around the flagship Warrior, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. He was 60 years old, a veteran of every major conflict in the past 3 decades, and he had never seen anything like this. Fleet status report, he ordered as he walked onto the bridge. Captain Diana Stone looked up from her station. All ships ready for jump, Admiral. We have 47 battleships, 63 cruisers, 55 destroyers, and 35 support vessels. Total personnel count is 58,000. Hayes nodded. Earth had emptied its shipyards to build this fleet. Every available ship and crew had been sent to stop the Raker Empire. The message was clear. Humanity would not allow genocide. To continue, General Amy Foster commanded the ground forces aboard the troop transports. She was a tough woman who had earned her rank through skill and determination. Her soldiers included the best humanity had to offer: Terran Marines, Special Forces, and the newly created Xenothreat Response Division. General, what's the status of your forces? Hayes asked, over the communication system. Ready to deploy, Admiral? We have 15,000 combat troops, plus support personnel. My people have been studying recharter tactics and equipment. We're prepared for anything they can throw at us. Commander Sam Mitchell had spent the past month working with Villani survivors, trying to understand their technology and capabilities. He was a patient man, which was good because the Villani were still struggling to understand why humans would fight for them. The Villani ships are completely unsuited for combat, Mitchell reported. They're built for exploration and research, not war. We've managed to install some basic weapons on a few vessels, but they're still fragile. Chief Engineer Robert Taylor had been working around the clock to upgrade what Villani technology they could save. Their engineering is actually quite advanced, Admiral. It's very efficient and elegant, but they never designed anything to withstand weapons fire. It's like trying to armor a butterfly. Dr. Helen Ross, the fleet's military psychologist, had been studying Reka, behavioral patterns from intercepted communications. They're overconfident, Admiral. They've conquered so many peaceful worlds that they think all species are like the Villani. They have no concept of meeting real resistance. Fleet Admiral Charles Gray was Hayes' second-in-command, a brilliant strategist who had planned this entire operation. The Herakter have called up reinforcements from their conquered worlds, but most of those troops are conscripts from the species they've enslaved. Their loyalty is questionable at best. Hayes pulled up the tactical display showing the Kepler system. The Herakter now had over 40 ships in orbit around the Villani homeworld, plus bases on multiple moons. It looked impressive, but Hayes had seen their intelligence reports. They're using fear tactics and intimidation, Gray explained. Their ships are big and scary looking, but they're designed to fight civilians, not a real navy. Our ships are smaller, but much more heavily armed. And armored? Sergeant Major Linda Johnson had been training a small group of Volani volunteers in basic self-defense. It was slow going. Peaceful aliens had trouble even holding weapons, let alone using them. They keep apologizing for learning to fight, Johnson reported to General Foster. One of them actually started crying when I showed him how to use a stun gun. They think violence is morally wrong even in self-defense. Elder Zethkal had survived the initial Herector attack and was now aboard one of the human ships. He watched the preparations with confusion and growing hope. "Do you do this for us?" he asked Commander Mitchell during one of their conversations. "We are strangers to you. Our worlds are far apart. What do you gain from fighting our enemies?" Mitchell tried to explain human ethics, but it was difficult. How do you tell someone that helping others is just what decent people do? Meanwhile, in the Ractor fleet, War Commander Grathel was also preparing for battle. He had called for reinforcements from 3 nearby systems, bringing conscript troops from conquered worlds. The slaves would serve as cannon fodder while his own warriors delivered the killing blow. "These new prey things have more ships than one." "Expected," his subordinate Kethmer reported. "Should we call for additional support?" Grathel made a dismissive gesture. "Numbers mean nothing when fighting cowards. We will crush them as we have crushed all others. Fear will break them." The Rector had ruled through terror for so long they could not imagine any other way. They deployed their forces in intimidating formations, expecting the humans to flee at the sight of their overwhelming numbers. Tony Garcia intercepted their communications and brought the intelligence to Admiral Hayes. "You're planning a massive show of force, Admiral? They want to scare us into running away without a fight?" "It's a fat chance of that," Hayes replied grimly. "How are their slave soldiers holding up?" "Morale is low among the conscripts. Many of them are from species the Herector conquered recently. They're fighting because they have to, not because they want to." Hayes saw an opportunity. "Start broadcasting messages to those conscript forces. Tell them we're here to liberate their worlds, not conquer them. If they surrender, we'll treat them as prisoners, not enemies." The psychological warfare began immediately. Human ships broadcast messages in dozens of languages to the various alien species serving in the Ractor fleet. The message was simple. Humanity had come to end the Empire, not to replace it. Dr. Ross monitored the effects of these broadcasts. "It's working, Admiral. We're detecting increased communication between conscript units. Some of them are asking their commanders what will happen to their homeworlds if they lose." Captain Kevin Barnes, now commanding a squadron of heavy cruisers, positioned his ships for the coming battle. The Herector are bunching up their forces around the planet. Classic intimidation formation, but terrible for actual fighting. If we hit them from multiple angles, they won't be able to coordinate a response. General Foster's troops were loaded and ready for deployment. "My people are eager to get down there, Admiral. We've seen the recordings of what the Herector did to Volani civilians. Every soldier in this fleet wants payback." The final preparations took 3 days. During that time, more Herecto ships arrived, but so did defections from their conscript forces. Entire units of enslaved aliens were abandoning their posts or sabotaging equipment. Elder Talesh, another Volani survivor, watched the human fleet with amazement. "So many ships, so many warriors. Your people must be very angry to send such a force." Commander Mitchell nodded. "We are angry, but we're also determined. The Ractor Empire ends here." On the final day before battle, Admiral Hayes addressed the entire fleet over the communication system. His words were simple but powerful. "Came here to answer a cry for help from innocent people. What we found was an empire built on cruelty and fear. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity stands with the peaceful against those who would destroy them. Today, we fight not just for the Volani, but for every species that has suffered under Ractor oppression." In the depths of space, both fleets prepared for battle. The Ractor expected another easy victory over weak prey. The humans knew better. They were about to introduce the galaxy to the concept of a species that fought back with everything they had. War Commander Grathel would learn that there was a difference between conquest and war, and humans were very good at war. The battle began at dawn on the 4th day. War Commander Grathel launched his attack with overwhelming force, sending 30 ships straight at the human fleet. He expected the humans to break and run like every other species had done. Instead, he got his first lesson in how Deathworlders fought. Captain Diana Stone commanded the destroyer Vengeance when the Raker opened fire. The first enemy salvo tore through her ship's armor, killing 12 crew members and knocking out her main engines. A normal species would have retreated. Diana ordered her crew to ram the nearest Raker vessel, all power to forward shields. She shouted over the noise of exploding systems, "We're going to show these monsters what humans do when you hurt our friends." The Vengeance smashed into the Raker cruiser at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire, but the human destroyer had taken out a vessel 3 times its size. Across the battlefield, other human captains watched and learned the Raker could be beaten. Admiral Hayes coordinated the battle from the Warrior, watching his tactical display as human ships engaged the enemy from multiple directions. The Herakta had expected a simple frontal assault they could easily repel. Instead, they faced a coordinated attack that hit them from 6 different angles at once. "Their formation is collapsing," reported Fleet Admiral Gray. "They don't know how to handle a real battle. Look at their command ship. It's trying to retreat behind the others." Commander Alex Turner led a boarding party onto a damaged Raker vessel. The close combat that followed was brutal. The Raker were strong and vicious, but they had never fought humans before. Turner's Marines used tactics learned from centuries of warfare, fighting as a team while the Raker fought as individuals. "Secure the bridge," Turner ordered as his men advanced through the alien ship. "We need their communication codes." Raker crew fought desperately, but they were not prepared for human determination. When one Marine fell, 2 others took his place. When the humans ran out of ammunition, they used knives and bare hands. The aliens had never seen anything like it. On the planet below, General Foster launched her ground assault. Her troops dropped from orbit in small pods, landing near the main Raker base on the largest moon. The enemy had built their fortress to intimidate prisoners, not to defend against a real army. "Artillery. Give me a full barrage on the main gate," Foster commanded from her command post. "Marines, prepare for assault." The human bombardment was precise and devastating. Raker soldiers who had spent years terrorizing helpless civilians suddenly found themselves facing trained warriors who hit back twice as hard. Major Paul Rodriguez led a special forces team deep into Raker territory. Their mission was to destroy the enemy communication centers and free the Villani prisoners being held as slaves. What they found in the prison camps made even hardened soldiers sick. "Dear God," whispered Sergeant Lisa Chen as they opened the first cell. Dozens of Villani were crammed into a space meant for 5 beings. Many were injured. All were terrified. "It's okay," Rodriguez told the prisoners in their own language. "We're here to help. The humans have come." Freed Villani could barely believe it. Many had given up hope of ever seeing their families again. Now strange aliens from a distant world were risking their lives to save them. Back in space, the tide of battle was turning. Tony Garcia's psychological warfare was working. Entire squadrons of conscript forces were surrendering or simply refusing to fight. The Raker Empire's greatest weakness was becoming clear. An army of slaves will not fight to the death for their masters. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from 12 conscript vessels," Garcia reported. "We're asking for protection from Raker retaliation." "Granted," Hayes ordered. "Tell them to move away from the battle zone. We'll sort out the details later." War Commander Grathel watched his fleet falling apart with growing panic. This was not how battles were supposed to go. The prey things were supposed to submit when shown superior force. Instead, these humans seemed to get more dangerous the harder they were hit. "Send the order," he snarled to his communications officer. "Kill all prisoners. If we cannot have victory, at least we can deny these humans their prize." But the order never reached the prison camps. Commander Turner's boarding party had captured the Raker Communication Center and was now broadcasting human messages throughout the enemy fleet. On the planet's surface, General Foster's troops overran the last Raker stronghold, the Alien. Soldiers, used to fighting terrified civilians, could not handle professional soldiers who worked together as a team. Base secured, Foster reported to Admiral Hayes. We freed over 10,000 Volani prisoners and captured most of the Raekter ground forces alive. The space battle reached its climax when Admiral Hayes brought his entire fleet to bear on the Herakter command ship. War Commander Grathel found himself surrounded by human vessels, his own fleet either destroyed, surrendered, or fled. "This is Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet," came the message on all frequencies. "Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting, and we will show you why nobody attacks our friends." Grathel made one last desperate attempt to escape, but Captain Barnes and his cruiser squadron cut off the retreat. The Raekter commander's ship was disabled and boarded within minutes. When the shooting stopped, the silence was almost overwhelming. The Raekter Empire's expansion fleet was gone. Some ships destroyed, others captured. The rest scattered to the winds with their crews in full retreat. Elder Zethkal stood on the bridge of the Warrior, staring at the tactical display that showed human ships rescuing Volani survivors from across the system. Tears ran down his face. "Why?" he asked Admiral Hayes. "Why did your people sacrifice so much for strangers?" Hayes looked out at the stars where human ships were still pulling Volani civilians from the wreckage of their world, because it was the right thing to do, because someone had to stop them, because that's what decent people do when they hear a cry for help. The aftermath took months to sort out. The freed Volani began rebuilding their civilization with human help and protection. The former Raekter Empire collapsed as conquered worlds declared independence. Many of the enslaved species asked to join a new federation based on cooperation instead of conquest. Dr. Cole wrote the final report on First Contact. The Volani represent everything good about intelligent life. The Raekta represented everything evil. Humanity chose which side we wanted to be on. Years later, Admiral Morrison, now commanding the Outer Rim Patrol, received a message from a distant star system. Another peaceful species was calling for help against a new threat. He smiled and ordered his fleet to respond. The galaxy had learned that, when innocent people cried for help, the Deathworlders would answer. Then when they answered, they brought not just war, but justice. The age of empires built on fear was ending. The age of species standing together was just beginning. In the end, the strongest predators in the galaxy were not those who preyed on the weak, but those who protected them.